All right, hello wine drinking people. We are back with more of what I had to drink yesterday. And in this case, it's last week. We're just going to get caught up on everything we've been drinking over the last 2 months because, man, we've been just so busy drinking. We haven't had time to review anything. And we had a lovely turnout for this. When I say lovely, I mean, I like port, so 6 people. I mean, we had 5 bottles of killer port open for 6 people, and we sucked them all dry that night. Let me tell you, this is one of my favorite events. And old vintage port, really, to me, is somewhat magical. These wines last a tremendously long time. And our old dog tonight, the 1937 Quinta de Noval Colheita, still a baby. I wish I would have opened this wine 2 days before the tasting. Been so busy, I forgot to open it up until just a few hours before the tasting. And this wine really had a little bottle stink. Really needed a little time to open up. But let's start with the 75, the young port we had, Fonseca. 75, not a great vintage in a Porto. And some people would say maybe they shouldn't have declared this vintage, but we had just 70, 75, and 77 in the 70s that were declared vintages for most of the major port houses. So, you know, usually they do at least 3, but the 70s were tough. They barely eked 3 out. And this 75 really showing nice light brown spice, sun-dried red plum, and sweet cherry fruit. Really nice, pleasant bouquet. Soft and easy at drinking on the palate with nice sweetness, but maybe just a little light in the alcohol department. One of the things that starts to happen is these wines start to get a little spirity, a little hot, and a little bit out of balance once they start to get old. But this wine was still drinking very nicely, and you can find this for around $100 a bottle. One of the better values in the 70s for vintage ports. All right, the 1966 Quinta de Noval Nacional. Nacional is a single vineyard within the Quinta de Noval property, and it is some of the oldest vines in Porto, 100 years old, on their own rootstock, which is very unique. Most vines today are on a grafted rootstock that is phylloxera resistant, but this is a really special wine and very rare. I bought some of this in the 03 vintage for my daughter. $1,000 a bottle is what the 03 was selling for on release. So the 66, I mean, we had it on the shelf for $1,000 for a long time. Didn't sell, so it's time to drink this wine. And really incredible bouquet here. Really distinct minerality, dark earth, espresso, dark spices on the nose, along with thick, dark black plum fruit. Wow, really fat and voluptuous on the tongue with layers of that cherry and plum fruit, lovely tobacco spice, and a little bit rough around the edges still. You know, this wine could still go another 10 or 20 years in the bottle. Most excellent juice. All right, the 63 grams up next. 63, the best vintage in the 60s, really legendary stuff. This wine, just amazing. And, you know, I had a few bottles, unfortunately. Ray bought them all after the tasting, one of the 6 people that was there. And I would have to say I'll be looking for some more of this stuff at $335 or $295, what we had it on sale for. Man, what a bargain that is to find a wine from a legendary vintage like this that is still drinking incredibly sweet, dark cherry fruit, earth, fresh earth, lots of life still here in this wine. Sweet tobacco spice, a little minty nuance to the nose as well. Wonderful sweetness and concentration, and a really lovely velvety texture on this tongue. Really sexy juice. And lovely freshness in this wine, too. Something that, you know, all wines lose as they get old, but this wine still had it. The wine of the night, until the 1937 came up, of course. Most excellent indeed. The 1947 Sandemans. Once we start getting into the 40s, man, you don't know how these wines are going to show, but this wine showed brilliantly. It had this lovely light cherry kind of cough syrup, fruit and dried flowers and allspice, a really pretty bouquet, and sweet and tangy at the same time on the palate with hints of coffee, toffee, and brown spice. Lovely cherry fruit to match and lovely freshness. Man, this legendary old vintage port still very much alive. Most excellent juice. And then the 1937 Quinta de Noval Colheita Tawny, man, what a complex array of walnuts. Had an airplane glue kind of quality to that. That bottle stink, you know, if it would have been opened a few days earlier, would have blown off and been really nice. But dates, figs, fudge-like nuance in this wine. A really nice pairing with the poisse cheese that we had on the table. And Toni cooked another outstanding meal. The charred New York sirloin steak was just beautiful with these ports. And really lovely freshness, incredible acidity still in this wine. You could keep this another 50 years or more. Just killer stuff. All right, folks, so that's what I had to drink at the Vintage Port Tasting. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasone, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.